Some entrepreneurs refer to their startups as their children. What about the founders with actual children? We're going to talk about parents in the workplace today on Builders Live. Hey, I'm Chris Wink. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Technically, the news organization with a community of technologists and entrepreneurs. Running a company, raising a child can be tricky. We have in the United States a very, let's say, treacherous dynamic with parents in the workplace. We're going to talk a bit about that generally, specific to entrepreneurship, ecosystem building, and growing teams that are supportive. And to do that, I am joined by Brian Brackeen, the managing partner at Lightship Capital, Victor Hwang, founder and CEO of Right to Start, and Maria Underwood, who is board chair at TechBirmingham, longtime friend of the show, and spoiler, has fresh insight into the experience of parenting and professionaling. Maria, Victor, Brian, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having us. Love the new rock intro, by the way.
Very rocky, right?
Yes.
We felt like we needed to like freshen it up because
1970s. It was very rock.
This is actually me on the riff. It's me on the riff. So we're doing it. Yeah, I mean we're going long term. We piloted the Builders Live. We're going in. We got a theme song now, so you can now use that at will. But before we get into our topic at hand, Brian, Victor, Maria, what is becoming our tradition, let's do a bright light in ecosystem building from around the country. And Maria, you are fresh into parent life, and we might not see you at future episodes because of a big change. So I want to go to you first in your current status as very new second parent. What's a bright light in ecosystem building that you are seeing?
Yeah. And if I do go dark at any point during this, it's not because anybody said anything offensive or I just was bored. It's because my child's crying. So ideally I'll come back, but
just wait. Brian could say something offensive or boring and it might flood.
Maybe I should have just let y'all think that if I just turned it off, I was offended. So we had local elections here in Alabama yesterday in Birmingham. And I was really excited to see that Mayor Woodfin was reelected to Birmingham's mayor for his third term.
Okay.
Last night, sweeping, he over 70% of the vote, and there were plenty of candidates in the race. But he has been a great mayor overall. But for the tech scene in particular, has put a lot of his budget towards tech innovation, towards supporting Tech Birmingham. His council also has been. He also helped lead and spearhead one of the biotech hub grants that Birmingham got, and then that money was since rescinded by the federal government. We won't get into that, but we did win a biotech tech hub award as a city, and Mayor Woodfin was great at spearheading that, but bringing everyone around the table, always being integrative, always showing up at tech events. So in terms of what his agenda will do for the tech community, I think we'll just continue to see growth and acceleration.
Cheers to that. Right, Victor, what do you got?
I'll go next. We're just wrapping up 4 incredible weeks in Martha's Vineyard of different groups coming to the island. Everybody from film groups to HBCUs to tech and innovation folks. It's a chance for all of us to get together and talk about what's going on around the country. What I was really excited to see is there seems to be a delineation in people's minds between the national environment and their rantings on Twitter or Facebook and how they're treating each other kind of. I think it's really important to kind of remember that there are people on both sides that you actually can agree with and you will have to work with. And so to find ways to collaborate locally, even if we disagree nationally, I think it's impossible.
Really interesting. Yeah, that is a theme of this. How do we balance that? And when are you being responsible? And when are you not? So thanks for that. That's a meaty one, Brian. I love the Martha's Vineyard dynamic is fascinating. Victor, what do you got?
The National Governors Association has announced their new agenda for 2025 to 2026, and it's called Reigniting the American Dream. And the first pillar is advancing the American dream through entrepreneurship, innovation, and economic mobility. This is Stitt, who is the incoming chair. He's the new chair of NGA for the year, and he's made this his top priority. He's someone who cares deeply about entrepreneurship, and what this is hopefully can do is open up the door for people all over the country that are working with their governor's offices in their states to try to support entrepreneurship. This is going to become a priority over the coming year across all the governors. So excited for what this can do.
Fascinating. I hadn't seen that. Yeah, that seems important, Victor. All right. Love that. Okay. Rounding out, I'm going to contribute. I am admittedly selfishly excited because I'll get to experience it, but I'm fascinated by the tech hubs around the country. We technically have covered those EDA tech hub funding from the outset, and fascinated by how we talk about commercialized research at an institutional level and bring it to an ecosystem level. And I'm fascinated by when those groups are doing it. And so I get to, in a couple weeks, go hang with the Montana Tech and Startup ecosystem at the Headwaters Tech Hub Summit. So Headwaters Tech Hub is one of the EDA Tech Hub funded research initiatives. Their focus is on photonics, but they're doing a summit that'll include other tech hub leaders from around the country. But they're it's both like a conversation around Montana's tech and entrepreneurship community, including commercialized science coming out of the photonics work. So that mix of like serious science at an institutional level in the Mountain West, which is a region of the country that captures my heart. I'm thrilled to be there. So we'll be talking more about what's going on in the the Mountain West. Shout out, friends.
Well, when you're out there in Bozeman, you should see Jenny Graff. She's one of our ambassadors at Right to Start. She's been running Scaling Montana.
Will she be there? Jenny, shout out. I'm gonna.
There, but she's in. I mean, you're in Bozeman, so you should connect with her out there.
Jenny, wherever you are, do coffee. I'm doing a hike with a friend on Friday, September 12th. So Jenny, I'm going to find you and see if you want to come. Victor says it's okay.
I love how you just talk into the camera to anyone. Bob, where are you?
Right.
Well, I assume everyone's watching. This is Builders Live, right?
Everybody we know watches this, and it's not just our mothers.
When I don't respond to voicemails, I sometimes just come on here and say, "Hey, I didn't get back to you," but I'm sure you can tell the message here. All right, we're trying this topic at hand portion of Builders Live, and so we're going with parent entrepreneurs, parents in the workplace. Big issue. We're going to find our angle on it. What's working, what's not. Interestingly, we all have a different slice of this, which we can get to. So actually, can we level set? And this time, Maria, I'll let you go last. Victor Brian, can we talk about, give me a working parent story, and by virtue of that parent story, tell us like what is your like parent professional life been like? What stage are you in? And give us a story from the past of your working parent life. Victor, I'll throw it to you.
Working parent story. Well, last year I took a road trip across the country. I drove from Southern California all the way to Washington, D.C. We hit like 13 states, and we did these events everywhere. And the most common issue I heard come up, people would start talking, we'd have discussions around entrepreneurship issues. The most ubiquitous question that came up was, what about childcare for entrepreneurs? It is that pervasive an issue across the whole land. So this, as polarized as we are as a country, this is a uniting issue, which is what do we do about childcare for people trying to start their own businesses? And this question came up of like, why is it that large companies get such favorable tax treatment for childcare for their employees? They can run childcare centers, they get huge subsidies for doing childcare in larger companies. But if you're solo entrepreneur, you're just starting out, and you're just starting a new business, it's almost non-existent. Like, why are we favoring that over the new entrepreneurs? And it really struck me, like, if you're an independent, contractor starting out as a business, you're trying to build something, your childcare expenses are not tax deductible. And then when they do have tax credits, they only kick in after you're profitable. And so most companies aren't profitable for the first, 2+ years, unless you're, some get lucky, but you don't get it until you're profitable. So the whole system is actually skewed in favor of larger established players and skewed against the new person trying to create something. So I just thought that was fascinating. And I heard that several times across the whole road trip.
Actually, Victor, in Alabama, it's, we have a Pregnancy Worker Fairness Act to where you can't be fired if you're pregnant, unless your company has like 5 or less employees, in which case you'll be terminated even for pregnancy reasons, which speaks right into the narrative of what you're talking about. But that seems really backwards and unhelpful for employees of small businesses or startups.
Well, Victor, do you have any memory of any like more recent or in the past of like balancing work
personal
and
stories? Well, it's a lot easier for us now. We got a 20-year-old and a 16-year-old, and the 16-year-old, kind of acts like he's already independent. So
so does my 2-year-old.
Yeah, he just started his junior year, and he's just having. He can go off campus now for lunch. So the upperclassmen, so he's like eating at healthy choices like Taco Bell for lunch now. So, we're sort of in a whole different realm of what you do with your kids.
And that counts. All right. Right.
I think that founders are always trying to balance the age of the company and the age of the child, right? It's kind of like sliding scale. Like, okay, can I work really, really hard while they can't remember that I wasn't there? Right? I keep the company to a certain state that when I can be home more when they need me, right? And can I exit before their teen years? Or if I do exit, can I spend some more time with them? Can I like make up for lost time because I'll be rich, right? That kind of thing. So I think we're always trying to figure out where the business is, where the kid is, and praying that they are congruent, but they're not always.
That's some heavy stuff, Bri. Do you have an example or a memory of anything, and give us a little window into what stage you're at? And do you have anything from the past that stand out to you of like how you got it right or wrong?
I think I personally, and I think a lot of people will register with this, there is always, always, always a recital or a softball match or something at a time where your company and your employees need you to win a deal or be somewhere else, right? So I think it's very difficult for everybody. 2, I think there's a lot of guilt that society puts on moms in that scenario. And I don't think we do a great job of helping either moms or dads in that situation.
Maria's gonna get final word on this, so I'll make my contribution. I have a 5 and a 2.5-year-old, and as you'd expect out of an unrepentant nerd like myself, I'm constantly weighing whatever like family, marital, gender dynamic battle I'm having with like the literature I read in the research that I'm looking at, and like constantly trying to square those things. I think it's very unhealthy for us not to talk about how challenging it is. One of my favorite economists is Claudia Golden, who she got the economics Nobel a couple of years ago for her work in Women in the Workplace. A lot of great historical look, but her book Greedy Jobs so pierced my understanding that like could be oversimplified to say most of the gender wage gap now is not your boss's fault, it's the husband's fault. Meaning it's like mostly household dynamic stuff. Mostly women are on the whole earning roughly similar for similar work done at similar hours and similar rates. But it's that women are opting out differently for those job types, role types, and typically because of dynamics at home. So I am super aware of that. That is like constantly weighing on me with my own very successful professional wife. We have 2 young kids. We're trying to dynamic that. I am really trying to figure out how I will be one of the in-classroom volunteers for library for my 5-year-old, which is, Wednesdays in the middle of the day. And I'm also supposed to be running a company. So like, this is very real for me about making those choices of growing a better company, growing a healthier family, and like having a healthier family dynamic. And as we all know, like this is right now like a little millennial story. As much as we hate millennials, we've seen in the research that it's become very smart, savvy, informed millennial women and some of the dummy millennial men trying to figure it out. And like, that's the dynamic of what was not right about generations past and how will that play out now. So I'm super excited for this conversation. That's my little anecdote right now of deciding how and can I way in classroom support with, to Brian's point, when am I being irresponsible as a founder versus when am I being irresponsible as kind of parent or partner?
But you get that choice, and that's the difference. Whereas the woman has to be the Wednesday person. Like the wife has to be there. I'm the one, my husband, I would say, does as close to 50-50 as a husband can do. But I'm still the one who gets the calls from daycare. Like I'm the one who signs up for the snack cart for the teachers because I'm the one who gets the emails. So, if he got him, he'd respond, but they still come to me as the mom.
They don't trust us as much. I think.
Well, whose fault is that?
Yeah. Well, still, I think we have to save all of this. This is it. So I think, because I think even Maria, what you just said, like, why? Like, but you're right that I've had to pry my way into some of those default emails. But so, all right, you were describing why I think this is so important.
Sorry, I'm going to have to play like the token female in this conversation, I think, even though I don't want to.
Well, I guess one of my, like, the economics nerd in me wants to make it not a battle, but like,
right.
Let's solve. Well, I'm not going to say it like that, but let's address it is all I mean to say.
Yeah.
So, all right, here's my first kind of like send us down this gauntlet into this, but this is the conversation I think we want to have, and maybe the framework that we have for our kind of listeners or community or whatever. I picture this being both an audience of entrepreneurs who I very much identify with, trying to do right by the many parties that Brian talked about. I think a class of ecosystem builders who themselves might be running organizations or might just be supporting or guiding or talking to other entrepreneurs, and so they are supposed to like be a voice of reason for those in their communities. But so here's just reading this kind of research paper. It is an open debate in economics right now. How much of, this is exactly what you hit on, Maria, how much of women opting into different roles is by force, by culture, by choice? And in the deep research, it's not fully settled yet. We all have our own opinions and our own personal experience, but does someone want to be on that default email or not? And I don't want to get yelled at in the comments. This is just like what the research shows is that we don't quite know. It's kind of noisy because it's going to be a mix of it all, right? Like sometimes it's a mix of it all. So here's my question for you guys to start out. The moment we are in, entrepreneurship booms in the pandemic. All of our careers have been around entrepreneurship. It has never surged in any of our lives, basically, more than it has in the last 5 years. The demographic that most drove that is women showed up in business and corporations at way higher rates than before. And one of the debates is some of that was not for high propensity businesses. I want to grow a bunch of people. Some of that were women opting out for more workplace flexibility to do elder or child care. It was disproportionately women of color, but it was women overall who were opting. And there's a debate in the literature. Is that good? Women are creating more flexibility, or is that bad that they were forced into these decisions? And I guess I want to talk a little bit about how do the four of us look at the entrepreneurship surging data? And maybe Maria, maybe I do want to talk to you first. Like when you look at the entrepreneurship surging data, net good, net bad, messy, murky, how do you think about that, knowing all these things go into it?
Yeah, so I think there are two things come to mind in the start of this conversation. The first is that I do think women are becoming entrepreneurs because they can have more flexibility for themselves. Like they can be their own boss. They can pick up their kids at 3 and then get back online when the kids go down and work all night. And that's acceptable. However, there is this kind of toxic culture in startup and entrepreneurship that you're grinding all the time and you have to go. And then if you are a mom entrepreneur who, by the way, all the data behind women entrepreneurs shows that women are more successful on the dollar to monies that they raise, have better retention of their employees. Like there's all this incredible data about women building successful companies that give back, yet they have none of the VC funds, which is a whole separate conversation. People don't invest in them. But part of that is because you don't see a mom as someone who will hustle, who has their nose to the grind. I think a lot of people assume that moms and female entrepreneurs are doing other things. They are the ones who are doing the Wednesday in class reading buddies. And that means they're not working, when in reality, it just means they're working later at night, earlier in the morning, twice as hard to keep the pieces together. So I think the entrepreneurship kind of vibe right now is that you can't be focused on anything other than your business for your business to be successful. And if you're focused on your kids, then those things can't be in alignment. When in reality, if a mom is going to make something work, she's going to make something work because that's what she's used to doing in her household. I also think, and this is something that I'll probably get hit for in the comments, but like, I think women can be the problem and their own worst enemy sometimes, of saying like, I have to be superhero mom and do it all and build this and show up for this and answer this email and see these friends. Culture tells us we have to do all the things at all times. I firmly believe that you can have it all. You just can't have it all at the same time. And that's not what we like to hear sometimes. There's a little bit of a culture war around what we expect from moms. There's a little bit of how we feel entrepreneurs should attack their new businesses, which is full force at risk of everything else. And that's not fair either. There's got to be some sort of understanding from both sides of we can build at the same time as we can grow families, but it may not look at the same timeline and the same, immediate return on capital that you're expecting from anyone else. But that should also be okay, because a business would be more sustainable if you allow kind of a whole person to grow it. So I think there's a lot of different pieces that go into that surge of entrepreneurship.
So good, Maria. There's like a lot there, but Brian, she made me think of you. You are interesting because you've had companies at different cultural moments, and then you become VC when there was a pandemic reckoning. So I wonder, are there things behaviors, assumptions that you had as an early male founder that you would advise your portfolio companies to do differently or handle differently if they came to you for counsel about balancing family responsibilities? Has your own personal journey changed alongside the culture?
You encouraged earlier a nerding out.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you first a technical and then bring it back to kind of family answer.
Yeah.
Right? People ask me all the time, because of my background in AI, hey, like, is AI racist or biased? Right. And I go, there's problems at every stage of the process, including the actual photo sensors in like an Android phone not picking up darker colors. And therefore, if you go to any of your Black friends on Instagram, they look different in every single photo. Every single camera that takes a different picture captures them in a different color. So the problem's systemic, top to bottom. This problem we're talking about is systemic, top to bottom, at every single level. So for instance, this, come west young man and likes live in your car and whatever, that just completely eliminates women and men that have families, for instance. Are you going to sleep in your car in some Palo Alto parking lot, with, your family of four? No. So does that mean that I don't have a great business? Does that mean I can't have a startup? Does that mean that I don't have an idea that's worthy? No. So we start that kind of crazy West Coast talk in the very beginning, and then it just is pervasive in whatever you do in a company in the first steps, that becomes pervasive in the company as it grows up, right? So,
well, all right, let me just play the role of pushing on you. My understanding is that the fiduciary responsibility you have is to your portfolio to maximize returns. And
yes. So
don't I, as an LP in your fund, I'm not literally, by the way, full disclosure, but like, a hypothetical LP, don't they like, yes, I want Brian to have these founders sleeping in their cars. If that's what's going to get the maximized returns, I don't want him doing anything other than getting his founders to maximize the biggest exit possible. I don't care about the rest of the community. Don't clip this. That's not me saying it. That's a metaphorical LP saying that.
Clip right there.
Yeah.
So multiple answers. If we're talking about individual founders, their health and their family will always be chosen over the business. And so it's important to keep them happy and healthy, because when that will allow this kind of problem not to come up where they're choosing between the business or those two things. But in a larger kind of like more generalized scale, Steve Jobs always said, I have three constituents on the stool, right? Shareholders, customers, and employees. When those three are in balance, the company is going to do really, really great. And when they're not in balance, the company is going to do poorly, right? And so Apple's the most successful company in the history of human endeavor. And so that should be the standard for everybody.
Victor, you've also seen entrepreneurship culture climate evolve in your career. You always were like a wide lens of entrepreneurship, so it wasn't a VC backed high growth tech startup, just one little itty bitty slice of an overall entrepreneurship pie. But yeah, talk a little bit about how your own experience has shifted over time, or what your counsel is to those entrepreneurs, those entrepreneur support orgs, about how much childcare is supposed to be part of the conversation.
Well, we've seen this at Right to Start. Just this organization, I founded and lead. We started 5 years ago in the heart of the pandemic, and the team has. We're an entirely remote team, which has changed the entire nature of the organization because there are so many women of young children that are on the team, and they can do Zoom, and we have entirely flexible hours. That is, we just let everyone set their own hours. And I think it's just opened up the talent pool of just amazing women who can just doing world-class stuff, but they just want control of their time. And I think that's changed the game for organizations that are like this. But it also, I think, refers to what you were saying earlier about venture-backed companies and the demand on them. One of my employees has a startup company on the side, and she did not take venture money because venture money changes everything. Suddenly you have a boss that's breathing down your neck saying, returns, my money is the time is ticking on my money. And so I think it does change the game. I think pushing companies like that into venture when they may not understand the consequences of having someone as your boss, as an investor, telling you what to do, is different. So I do think it changes the game, but it's much more nuanced than people think. Because yeah.
Sorry, Victor, I mean to cut you off.
Okay, so men cut women off all the time, so please go ahead.
That's why I just barrel ahead. There's also, the cultural side of this too comes back into play with PE firms. So where there's a founder who I have seen on my LinkedIn, who I know personally, but he's a father of two young kids, and posted a reel of like how hard it is for him to be a founder and like how much he's giving up seeing his kids to live the founder life. Weekends in the office, really nose to the grindstone. And it's kind of this like lifestyle as a founder. If a woman founder posted that video of, I have not seen my kids in a week, or I slept in the office this week and didn't go home, people would not celebrate that in the entrepreneur world, particularly in the startup space. We're not like allowing women to be away from their young kids and see that as a celebratory. You're working so hard to grow your business. We're proud of you. It's like, she's putting her business before her kids. Like, that's unacceptable. So I think there's just two noises at all time. It's like, you want women founders to succeed, but if they try to throw their lives into building a company at the, and may see their kids less as a result. It's okay for dads to do it. It's not okay for moms to do it. And why is that? So, if PE firms are picking who they want to back, they're going to back the male because it's okay if dad's not home, but it's not okay if mom is. And women carry that weight and that guilt of, people are going to think that it's not okay if I, spend the weekend working. So some of that conversation is also to Brian's point, to Victor's, like, we allow the flexibility and we champion it for women to become entrepreneurs, but we don't want to kind of support them or not guilt them on the other side of it.
One of the books I've liked most over the last couple of years is a book by polling guy Todd Rose. I think it's a 2024 book, called Collective Illusions. And the book is just a collection of topics that would be relatively familiar to a lot of professional pollers, in which Americans say a thing about themselves and think that they're different and say other people think this other way, and they're wrong. And so, like, one of the examples is Americans overwhelmingly across party lines say they would vote for a woman in their field, or would vote for a woman for president, but they say, but a woman couldn't be elected because the other people wouldn't vote for her. And so the collective illusion in that polling example is, according to polling data, it's people are making an irrational choice. They mistakenly think they know what other people think. And so the book's concept is like, there's a lot of these things that we do a thing because we think other people think this way, even though we don't. And one of the like most interesting things around American gender dynamics is just how fast it's changed relative to other big social changes. That you look at, 1950 to 2020, stretch it out to 2022, like 50 to 70 years, the expectations are wildly different. And so, Maria, what I mean by that comes to my mind is I often wonder when I talk to people about this, who do we mean feels that way? There's definitely generational differences in how people perceive, but in my bubble, I don't think that there would be that I don't think anyone's like good on that male CEO not being involved as a father. Like I don't think that's the entrepreneur dynamic that I would hear. And so I guess I wonder, does that actually exist? Still? Yeah. Say
it
more.
Does. It does. Because, and more the point, and that I know that person, he's a fabulous father. There's no problem there, but it's like the champion of like, I can go to work all day and I'm doing this to become the next, Tim Cook or, to Brian's example earlier. And whereas if the woman is like trying to work with her child, there is, I've worked with female CEOs who have had this struggle of not being able to, and to your point, I think a lot of it is a mom guilt issue of a female founder saying like, if I put out there that I'm going to work all day Saturday, people will think I'm not a good mom. So I think to what I said earlier too, like a lot of this is the women's problem, like it is on us of saying like, we will not live up to the standard that society wants us to of being able to have it all and balance child and work, et cetera, et cetera. So some of it is woman's fault, but if we feel that way, then there's got to be some sort of pushback that we receive because of it. Like we wouldn't feel that way for no reason, if that makes sense. So I do think it's just kind of this, it's changing a lot. Millennial fathers are leaning in more than any other generation. I think you said that earlier, Chris, like there's a lot of conversation that's happening to bring this gender gap in entrepreneurship, to be flexible to parents. You're already seeing parents go into starting their own businesses more. We're getting there. There's just some of that old lingering kind of cultural conversation that needs to shift, and kind of what we celebrate and how we do that.
And how about I push this, because lest anyone have the taste that in any way am I implying it's women's fault. Not, for the record, lest I get yelled at in the comments. Not. What I am though, and maybe let's push to like, okay, what should we do in the companies we run and the ecosystems we're a part of to make this positive and action oriented? I'll go back to Claudia Golden's work, but this shows up a bunch that the battle is in. Actually, Maria, I think your earlier example is so profound because it's like a real one that any of us who have been around daycare in probably the last 10 years, this like default call, default email thing is, I think, probably rapidly changing. And I bet you there's probably a way for it to find like time use survey data from American Community Services. Maybe I could find some sort of mapping thing, but I bet you it changes a lot by the zip code. But the comedian Nate, what is his name? Nate Bargatze. I don't know his name. Sorry.
Nate Bargatze. He's
Bargatze,
great.
thank you. Yeah,
Oh,
super
nice.
funny.
Yeah.
But probably Gen X, maybe. Gen X is what I probably.
Yeah, we claim him. Yeah.
All right, good. Gen X, super funny. But he has a bit that for my millennial ears, I find very distasteful. And it's very much like, why would you call me? I'm the dad. Why would you call me about, something my kid needs? And it is very funny, and he is very funny, and I like him to find it very funny. But to my millennial ears, I find it very frustrating because I very much want to be combating that. And I think satire is so effective. And it's satire, right? It's definitely satire. It's poking fun at this 100%. But I also think about when we reinforce what is that. And I hate the dummy dad trope because like I think it sometimes breeds this, and I view as insidious and kind of like reinforcing this. And I want similar expectations, but it's messy. And I guess I don't know what point I'm making other than like how much do we need to push forward our peers on these issues? And like, all right, last thing and I'll shut up. But another common joke that you'll see in like social media, like a very common joke of the dad right now, dad of young kids post a video of like, ha ha ha, someone said, why am I babysitting my kids? And I see it a lot, and a lot of creators use it. And I guess I've gotten a couple like comments ish like that from older, like maybe boomer older even still, but I've never gotten anything like that by anyone under 50. Like I just don't get that experience when I'm with kids. I think I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but I wonder how much that is like a trope that isn't actually true or is changing fast. At least when I'm with my kids, I'm parenting. I'm there dealing with tantrums like I'm supposed to, just like anyone else is. If you were in my neighborhood yesterday, you heard me carrying a screaming kindergartner who's throwing a tantrum after school. And I looked at middle of the day, trying to manage email and doing a tantrum like any other parent. I guess I'm just saying, I want to normalize that. And I think we have to normalize that is how we break through. So someone shut me up and say, how do we normalize that?
I think we have to. I think a big way to do that is if we're looking back at the data of more women being entrepreneurs, you might make an assumption, and this is just me making something up about data, but which my accountant husband would love. But that the partners, let's say for this example, male partners in this would be working at more corporate jobs so that their wives could do entrepreneurship. Like, let's just say that's the journey. If that's the case, then men need parental leave so that they can then support and be more active and be more present in the lives of their kids so that the mom can be the entrepreneur. If that's the example that we're in, and I don't want anybody to come for me for like, we'll talk about same-sex couples and all of that later. Like, this is one example. But so like my husband has been at 2 different jobs and our 2 kids. He changed jobs right before our second, didn't get parental leave at either. And is one of the, the non-ironic dads who is very involved, very like co-parenting at its finest as much as possible, but he has to go to work every day. And when he didn't come in after the second week of my child being born, my first, he was called into the office and was asked why he wasn't coming in. So it's, and the only people, and women can fight for paid parental leave as much as they want. The only people who are going to change that are men in the workplace, and millennial men in particular who are going to HR saying, we have to be able to support. We have to be able to be co-parents. It's not even supporting their wives. It's we want time with our kids. We want time to be home. And women can't change that because that's just another thing that people pin as a woman's issue that's really a man's issue.
Someone get her a mic.
Mr. Horan, I'm so sorry.
No, I'm trying to not interrupt you with my shouts of, so Brian, let me throw it to you then, because this is your systemic issue. Like I feel like I'm caught in, and I'm not doing right by my kids, wife, company. We like fight about it. I get it wrong. Not doing enough here or there. Your systemic issue is so profound, Brian, because it's right. Like I think Maria, you so hit on it that it's like from the foundation. I was able to carve out some time as an entrepreneur with young kids, but not a lot. But I did. Yeah. And I wonder how different that would have been if I wasn't an entrepreneur, if I was working at whatever other company. And now I will put this in the story that will follow this. I have seen the data of rising share of parental leave, regardless of gender dynamic, which seems like the right trend, but it's not most. So, Brian, maybe can you touch on, like, I'm picturing you talking to portfolio founders in your portfolio of, hey, Brian, should I take parental leave? I'm the founder of a company and we're trying to hit whatever benchmark we want. How do you handle that advice when someone comes to you? We've
always supported leave. Always. Because what's it going to be? Leave or quit? Right?
That's where a strong team comes into play.
Yeah, exactly. You can have her back in 6 or 8 weeks, or you can not have her back at all. You choose, right? And the other thing is,
what about that male founder? I think the dynamic. No. I mean, I think for you, and I think to Maria's point of this is a man's problem. I like that. I think that feels like the right framing. Like, this is not we made this mess, so we got to solve that mess. So I think it's the male founder who comes to you and
If
says,
you're making decisions about leave based on gender, you're already lost the game. You are so far.
Well, we love Brian.
You are so far out of it that you're probably a terrible investor. Like full stop. You shouldn't be making any decisions, financial decisions, based on gender. Full stop.
heard. And though it sounded like you got drop mic on me, what I want to clarify is I meant that you know, that founder that comes to you that says, I have a, you know.
Yeah, inherent in your question is, does the value of the underlying equity hurt by that founder being missing? And what I'm saying is, you shouldn't be making a gender-based determination on equity value based on the gender of the founder.
Okay. All right. So we're rapidly
Also,
coming to
it's also not true, right? Like to go like to the deeper, like if you're an AI company, the question is, how much do you have in the model? It's not about whether or not this founder is off for X number of weeks. If you're a trekking company, it's how many trucks you have on the road. It isn't always about what that person is doing any particular week. You should be looking at the long-term investment, right? I'm going to be in this company for 7 to 10 years. I can afford to have any gender of person gone for some number of weeks.
Well said. I want to dive deeper, but I'm going to run out of time, and I want to go to Victor on maybe like, what do we think about what pro entrepreneurship policy ever intersects with parental stuff? But one thing on that, Brian, there's a lot in what you. Actually, no, I don't have time. Victor, I got to go to you. There's like 7 things I want to ask you, Brian.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack here.
I know there's a ton. So, Victor, is there, when you look at what pro entrepreneurship policies, you said earlier that when you were talking to founders around the country, this came up. When do you still stay in your lane of pro entrepreneurship or pro economic growth, but it involves anything around parental leave, parental support, whatever parental framing? When does it ever come up? If at all?
Well, 3 quick thoughts. One around the cultural issue and the norms. I think this is a huge thing that policy is not going to solve. This is, this is us, and this is our ability to shape that. There's actually there was a video going around on TikTok the other day saying, and an amazing dad is an average mom, or something like that, and that that guys will brag about how they're doing all this and they're so great, and it's like basically another day in the life of a mom. And I thought that's it, and that was like going viral on TikTok recently. So I think that is just part of the cultural norms that we deal with, and so I think that has to shift, and I think we are that solution, and driving that, and it's a multi-generational shift that has been happening. It started actually moving during the Nate Bargatze era. But it's not like an immediate thing. It just takes decades for this to really work its way in the right direction. The other part on policy is the support and the tax treatment, the subsidies for childcare for bigger companies, and the real lack of support from a policy standpoint for people starting something small is real. And even the tax bill that was just passed actually expands it just a tiny bit, but it still doesn't really tackle the real fundamental issue, because it expanded it from like the tax credit from $600 to $1,050 for a year, so $450, which is not zero, and that's only if you're profitable, right? You can only get that credit if you actually have income as a business, which that's not as likely in the early period. The third thing is support for expanded more childcare services is a thing too, and just the difficulty of people running childcare services. And so one of the things I met a couple of years ago was in Wichita, Kansas. The city hall actually made an effort to incubate new childcare services. They actually ran training programs for people that wanted to start home childcare businesses, which I thought was fascinating, because they saw it as such a problem that the city made it a top priority to invest like hand-to-hand, essentially business incubation services in childcare. And I thought that was fascinating. I have not heard of any other city doing that, but if there is, would love to hear about it, and certainly would love to hear if the state's even trying to support this better statewide. But it's an issue, and it has not been on the agenda for forever.
Yeah, and to your point earlier, Victor, it's one thing that almost everyone bipartisan agrees with, that it's a problem, but no one can get legislation passed.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a heady thing. I can't touch on it at the moment. For me, I leave with 1/3 of American workers have a kid age at 18 or under. So this is not a fringe issue about a given use. This is a workforce. It's an economic issue. To your point, Maria, it's why this has bipartisan support. This is a fundamental economic issue. What we seem to know is a lot of it's going to have to happen culturally, though, too, to Victor's point of it's us. And so working out the dynamics and expectations feels like the center of pay equity, of gender equity. But to those who are uncomfortable with the terminology, also just for economic growth and a more vibrant economies for any of our communities. It is an issue of our era. Brian, Maria, Victor, thank you so much for the discussion. I guess I got to give a special shout out to Maria Underwood, the one and only, who is not only doubling down as parent, but also is going to be taking perhaps a retiring for now from Builders Live as she in the maternity leave and some other workforce changes. So Maria, thank you so much for being part of this pilot of a monthly conversation on ecosystem building.
Yes. Thank you all so much. You've got great people behind me, I'm sure. And it's not personal. Also, Chris, you need to promote your book real quick before we go. That's my last wish.
Oh, that's very adorable. Yeah, so I do have I guess it is more relevant than normal.
It is.
I am doing a regional children's book that's out next month called Philly ABCs, about the home that I grew up, that I live in, Philadelphia, that is inspired by reading regional books to my kids and hating them. And so with an illustrator friend, we have coming out September 28th from Ship for Kids, Philly ABCs, hopefully others to follow. It's got some quirk, it's got some spirit. And I'll tie it back to economic development because I'm that much of a nerd and don't want it to feel relevant. Storytelling. I've been doing readings with a half dozen youth groups, like kids under 8 or so. And the stories we tell kids shape what they expect out of the homes in which they live. And so we can do that in many forms, be it a children's book or otherwise.
Hopefully John and Water are both going to make cameos in the book.
They do make cameos. It is true. It is officially called Philly ABCs. The Johns from A to Z. But it is not patronizing, I promise. And I hope to do other regional books with other local collaborators. So thanks, Maria, for that shout out. I'll do it. I'll do it there. There it is.
Yay.
You can shout it out, phillyabcs.com. Got it. Adorable. Anyway, that's not what we're about. Victor, Brian, Maria, thank you so much for this Builders Live. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.